Special thanks to Tokyo Tree and Sakurako for sponsoring today's video. From summoning a powerful ice dragon to assassinating an enemy in 2 steps to forcing you to play deadly children's games, the zanpakuto of Bleach are the apex of Kubo's creativity. And this makes sense, as the Shinigami are the stars of the show, and as the partners by their side involved in each and every battle, every zanpakuto release is treated with a certain reverence and gravitas that makes each one unique, special, and exciting. There are of course 2 stages to a zanpakuto, Shikai and Bankai, and we've looked at Bankai a lot on this channel in the past. As the extremely rare spectacle and showcase of power and ability that it is, it makes sense that Bankai is a topic that gets a lot of focus and anticipation, but Shikai shouldn't go overlooked. After all, almost every single Shinigami has one, unlike the scarcity of Bankai in comparison, and they're always our first introduction to a zanpakuto. The Shikai is where the seed of the idea of what the zanpakuto is and can do is planted, and is our first tantalizing look at that particular Shinigami's own unique set of powers. So in this video, I figured it was finally time to show Shikai some love and attempt to rank what I feel are the 11 strongest Shikai in the series, with a few honourable mentions. Now, this list is slightly difficult to make, as it's basically impossible to divorce a zanpakuto from their Shinigami partner. As we learned recently in the 1000-Year Blood War arc anime, the zanpakuto is the Shinigami, so one doesn't exist without the other. You won't get Ryujin Jaka without Yamamoto, for example. That being said, I think it's still possible to draw up a list of the most powerful Shikai in the series, power here being defined by, as always, a multitude of different factors that come together to create one all-encompassing picture of the Shikai itself: versatility, ability, potential weaknesses, and more. Not only that, but like with Bankai 2, I don't think there are really any weak Shikai. Certainly some are more useful than others, and others are very situational at best, and definitely, unlike Bankai, there are a few Shinigami that range on the weaker side in general, but they've nearly all got some kind of advantages or benefits to being used. To whittle it down then to this list of 11 plus a few honourable mentions, we've really had to separate the best from the rest. And one last piece of housekeeping as well, but this list is looking at zanpakuto from the source material only. Maybe we'll do one including the light novels and what they encompass in the future, if you want to see it. So without further ado, let's take a look at what I think are the strongest Shikai in Bleach. Before we get started on the video, guys, if you haven't hit subscribe yet, make sure to do that now for more Bleach content like this every single week. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up as well to help support me and the channel. And if you want to take that support from me another step further, I do also have a Patreon as well, and as always I want to give a massive shout out and say a huge thank you to everyone supporting me over there on Patreon. I really do appreciate it, but a much easier way of supporting me is simply going and checking out my second channel, Mr. Tomo Talks Games. I'd really appreciate it if you took a look at some of the videos and maybe dropped a subscribe. But no matter how you choose to support me, thank you all so very much. And of course, finally, there will be spoilers for the 1000-Year Blood War arc of Bleach to follow. Let's kick off this list with a few honourable mentions, and I have 3 in total, and honestly I had to really stop myself from just including tons of Shikai on this part of the list. To begin with, Izuru Kira's Wabisuke is a great showcase for the more unorthodox zanpakuto of the series. With an oddly shaped blade and no particularly flashy effects to speak of, Wabisuke might seem unassuming, even useless at first. However, the true nature of this zanpakuto is absolutely terrifying, with a near limitless ability at its disposal. Simply by striking something, Wabisuke doubles its target's weight. Nice and simple. By striking it again, the weight doubles again, and this effect continues to stack over and over until the opponent buckles under the pressure, eventually bowing their head in penitence. It's only here at the end where the realization sets in. The blade is shaped the way it is, so that it sits perfectly around the neck of its opponent, ready to cleave their head clean off. What really holds Wabisuke back is a real lack of versatility. While strong, this is all it can do, and its ability is limited by the extent of its tangible range, which is just the blade's own reach itself. And then, if Wabisuke makes the cut, then so too should Mayuri Kurotsuchi's Ashisogi Jizo. Upon activating Shikai, anything struck by the blade is paralysed, as though afflicted by the venom of a spider. It's a very similar blade to Wabisuke in that it's oddly shaped, and one strike is enough to begin slowing the opponent greatly, but Mayuri's poison is able to render an opponent unable to move from one single strike. Where the blade was, again, similarly to Wabisuke, limited by range originally, by the Thousand Year Blood War arc we see Mayuri has an ability to expand the scope of his paralysis powers so long as his opponent can hear Ashisogi Jizo's scream. And then our last honourable mention: upon returning from the Royal Palace, the true nature of Rukia's Sode no Shirayuki is revealed. The power of her zanpakuto is actually cold, rather than ice, as was originally believed. This totally changes perception of her zanpakuto and how it works. Now her blade can lower Rukia's own body temperature until it reaches absolute zero, effectively killing her and rendering her impervious to abilities that need to breach her body to affect her. Not only that, but the cold she emanates begins to seep into the world around her, going so far as to cause tremors in the earth. With her blade now acting as just an icy extension of her own arm, Rukia is capable of freezing opponents simply with a slash. The issue with her true power lies in the disadvantaged state Rukia finds herself in. It's an incredibly dangerous power, and one that requires precise control and perfect timing to pull off, or risk potentially shattering her own body. Starting off the actual list with number 11, Byakuya Kuchiki's Senbon Sakura is quite a simple Shikai, but that in no way means it's bad. Quite the opposite, in fact. Of all the captains aside from perhaps Seijin Komamura, Byakuya's Shikai and Bankai feel the most intrinsically linked. The Bankai is quite literally just a much bigger version of his Shikai. In Shikai, Senbon Sakura's blade transforms into 1,000 tiny blades, which take the shape of a whirlwind of flower petals. Controlling the petals with his sword hilt, Byakuya can effectively take command of the battlefield from afar, using the petals, which move at such a blistering speed as to barely be visible, to decimate his opponents with the devastating force of 1,000 swords. Even in Shikai, the blade petals can be used to defend himself, and upon his return from the royal palace, Byakuya's Senbon Sakura has grown so great in terms of mass and sheer blade density that it appears to some to in fact be his Bankai. One of the best things about the way Kubo designed zanpakuto is how perfectly many of them suit their Shinigami partner, which of course is to be expected, and that's absolutely true for Soifon and her Suzumibachi. Upon activating Shikai, Suzumibachi transforms into a gauntlet that affixes itself to Soifon's forearm, complete with a wicked-looking blade in the shape of a hornet's stinger. Suzumibachi only has one ability, Nigeki Kesatsu, but it's a truly scary one and warrants its place at number 10 on the list. If Soifon succeeds in stabbing someone in the same place twice, Nigeki Kesatsu activates and her enemy is instantly killed. No ifs, no buts. Known as Two Steps Kill, it's perfect for a flighty assassin like Soifon. Where Suzumibachi might appear to be even more range limited than something like Wabisuke or Ashisogi Jizo, this is a great example of how the zanpakuto is so perfectly tailored to complement the Shinigami. Soifon is lightning fast and excels in getting up close and personal to her opponents, often negating that range disadvantage. Really, the only time we've seen Suzumibachi fail was when overpowered by a crushing Reiatsu, something that presumably doesn't happen all too often. In fact, Suzumibachi is so potent that many consider it the superior option to Soifon's own Bankai. One of the most versatile zanpakuto in the entire series, Toshiro Hitsugaya's Hyorin Maru, considered the most powerful ice and snow type zanpakuto in Bleach, is really the complete package. Simply by releasing Shikai, the power of Hyorin Maru is so overwhelming that the weather is immediately affected, creating a thundering tempest in the sky above. When swung, Hyorimaru takes the form of a massive dragon of ice, which freezes anything it slams into, coating the area in water. Through its passive ability Tenso Jurin, Hyorimaru can manipulate and control the weather, as well as take advantage of the moisture in the atmosphere. More so than really any zanpakuto, Hyorimaru has a near-endless litany of abilities at its disposal, showing the creative ways Hitsugaya is capable of wielding his Shikai, and he constantly thinks of new ways to deploy his ice. Though it seems to lack a truly dangerous killing edge, that may be more down to Hitsugaya's own disposition rather than a weakness that can be attributed to his zanpakuto. Honestly, the next few on the list proved probably the most difficult to rank in general. They all clearly deserved to be on here, the question was where? Well, in 8th place we have Shinji Hirako's Sakanade. While it may just feel like a discount version of Kyoku Suigetsu, that still makes it incredibly powerful, as, spoiler for the rest of the list, Kyoku Suigetsu is one of the most unbelievably broken Shikai in Bleach. So even if Sakanade isn't quite as all-encompassing in its ability, it's still a real force to be reckoned with. As soon as it's activated, if the opponent smells the pungent fumes the blade releases, they're ensnared by its power. A power to reverse absolutely everything they see. Up and down, left and right, even back and front are completely switched around. But it's not just limited to eyesight. The direction of attacks themselves and the placement of injuries is also turned on its head as well. Not only that, but by the time we reach the 1000-Year Blood War arc, Shinji has trained with his zanpakuto further, and now it reverses his speech as well, just to amplify the effect. Sakanade's biggest weakness, ironically, is that Shinji doesn't keep his mouth shut. Imagine leaving your opponent to try and deal with this power in confused silence. You'd basically have free rein to attack them as you see fit. It's actually quite interesting to look at all of these different Shikai. From my perspective, they seem to all fit, for the most part, into one of two categories. Either they're incredibly versatile, taking one core theme and expanding on it with loads of different abilities, or they are very simple and revolve entirely around one particular power. And both types are, of course, extremely strong in their own way. But going back to this idea of versatility, up next we have Kisuke Urahara's Benehime, a zanpakuto that again I really didn't know where to place. It's a weird, nebulous zanpakuto, and at first glance it seems like it has no unifying theme or power. But thinking about it more, and looking at and taking into account its Bankai, Benehime has essentially the ability of creation. While not on the same incredible scale as its Bankai, Benehime can do almost anything Kisuke needs it to while in Shikai. For example, it can fire off a powerful, long-ranged arc of energy, or it can even create a string net to bind Kisuke's enemies. That very same net can then go on to be further enhanced, further built upon, and be lined with explosive spheres that link together to form a massive blast. And if Kisuke needs to retreat, he's even able to create a sturdy shield with his Shikai, as well as use his blade to negate oncoming enemy attacks. Plus, there's always been something oddly badass about that screech of a firework that pops whenever Kisuke slings a blast from his Shikai. So really, Benehime is the zanpakuto that can do just about anything at all. Making its destructive debut in the 1000-Year Blood War arc, Kenpachi Zaraki's long-awaited and much speculated on Shikai, Nozarashi, is almost without a shadow of a doubt the most physically impressive zanpakuto in the series. No zanpakuto has the same physical prowess, the same heft, the same sheer cutting power. While activating Nozarashi may just turn it into an oversized meat cleaver, that sounds absolutely perfect for the barbarian that is Zaraki. And of course, we see him use it to great effect when he decimates a meteorite that threatens to demolish the entire battleground of the war below with a single swing. Unfortunately, when Nozarashi's Shikai does come up against something that it can't cut, like Gerard Valkyrie's shield, it does effectively default to being just another blade, but there's no denying the absolute raw power and strength that Zaraki wields. When it comes to Zanpakuto's simplicity, Nozarashi stands tall and proud, and there's nothing wrong with that. And now, before we move on to the top 5 on this list, a quick word from today's sponsor. And as if out of nowhere, Jade is here to help me talk about the sponsor of today's video. And well, the sponsor of the video is none other than Tokyo Treat and Sakurako, who are kind enough to once again sponsor the channel. So if you haven't heard of these guys, their goal is to help everyone experience the taste of Japan from the comfort of their own home using these monthly snack boxes. And these snack boxes have arrived just in time for spring, which is great because this aesthetic is very much up Jade's street. So, what exactly is Tokyo Treat? Well, it's a monthly pop Japanese snack subscription box, and you'll get up to 20 of the latest, most exclusive seasonal flavoured Japanese snacks like Sakura Senbei, Sakura Manju, and Strawberry King Cider.
Whereas Sakurako is a monthly authentic Japanese snack subscription box that supports local Japanese snack makers. In each box, you get 20 traditional, authentic and artisan Japanese snacks, including Japanese teas and a special Japanese tableware item. This month, some of the delights include Sakura shortbread cookies, Sakura mochi, and Sakura kurunto.
Okay, so spring is almost here, it's nearly April, and so to celebrate, the theme of the snack boxes this month is Sakura, which means they're bound to be Byakuya's favourite box as well, let's face it. And the theme of Tokyo Treats box in particular is the Sakura Picnic Party.
Whereas Sakurako's is the arrival of Sakura. So, Tom.
Yeah.
We're going to start with our favourites.
Oh yeah?
Kit Kats.
Very nice. Look how aesthetic it is. You like all that sort of thing.
It's so pink.
Look how pink it is.
It's so cute. Snap it.
Does taste remarkably peachy.
Oh my god, it does. Tastes like spring.
Alright, next up from the Tokyo Treat box we have Sakura Manju. Should we split it in half?
So doughy. Oh my
yeah,
gosh,
look
that
at
that's
that
so
was
satisfying.
That was satisfying, yeah.
That is a good
came
split.
apart really nice, there you go. So according to our booklet, this is made with rice flour and filled with pink cherry blossom flavoured sweet bean paste.
Really nice.
It is nice, yeah.
These are like the cakey ones. Are always good. This is really nice though. I love cherry blossom flavoured things.
These are the Sakura Cherry Candy. They come in this cute little packaging here. And they're apparently flavoured with the juice of Yamagata Prefecture's Sato Nishiki cherries. There we go.
I think I know what these are going to remind me of. When I was a kid, I was obsessed with these sweets.
Yeah?
They were called cherry drops. Yeah. A lot more natural flavoured than the ones I used to have as a kid though.
Yeah. Is that good?
Oh, yeah. Right. That leads us on to the first part of the Sakurako box, which is Sakura sweet tea.
Luckily you're a tea drinker, whereas I'm not, so
You're not,
I have
no.
someone to share it with.
Exactly. I am the person to share the tea with. And it wouldn't be a Sakurako box without the tableware item. This is so cute. You've got the little cherry blossom detail around the edges here. So I've gone for this.
Oh, very
right
nice.
Here.
Yeah, and using the power of the booklet that comes with each box, which tells you everything you need to know and contains a wealth of information. These are the Sakura Soft Chew.
Lovely. Oh, I can't get over how pretty these are. I almost don't want to eat them, but alas, we will. Really excited. And the best thing about these is that they're actually vegetarian. I was nervous they wouldn't be. That's exactly how I thought it would taste. Perfect.
So the final thing we're going to try from Sakurako is the Sakura Donut Bow. Oh yeah, wow, it smells like a donut you get at the beach or something.
Like Brighton Pier.
Very nice, yeah.
But higher quality.
Yeah. Okay, so those were the snack boxes for this month and some of our favourite treats from within. But if you guys wanted to get some boxes for yourselves or for someone you know and help support the channel at the same time, you can do just that. As Tokyo Treat have given me a special code so that I can pass a nice deal on to you guys. Use the code down below in the description or in the pinned comment, wherever you can find it, to get $5 off your first Tokyo Treat order. And as for Sakurako, don't miss out on the opportunity to experience the Sakura season for yourself at home.
And you can check out their special Sakura promotion in the link in the description below.
And a massive thank you goes out to Tokyo Treat and Sakurako for sponsoring today's video. So, with Zaraki's Nozarashi being the pinnacle of simple Shikai, what therefore is the paragon of tricky Shikai? Well, kickstarting our top 5 strongest Shikai is Shunsui Kyoraku's Katen Kyokotsu. Not only one of the coolest looking Shikai in Bleach, but one of the most devious and deadliest as well. Tricky is an excellent way of describing these dual scimitars. The zanpakuto spirit has a tendency to do its own thing, frustrating Kyoraku, but when it plays ball, Katen Kyokotsu wields one of the most terrifying powers in Bleach. With the ability to make children's games into reality, Katen Kyokotsu gives Kyoraku access to a number of different abilities, each based on a different game. Busho Goma entraps Kyoraku's opponent in a spinning top of wind, while Kage Oni allows Kyoraku to move through the shadows themselves to land a sneak attack on his foe. Iro Oni pits Kyoraku in a colour-based game against his opponent with their lives on the line, while Daruma-san ga Koronda is similar to red light, green light, and if the opponent fails to spot the real Kyoraku in time, he'll appear immediately beside them with devastating effect. The list is truly expansive, making Katen Kyokotsu not only one of the most versatile zanpakuto, but one of the most sadistic and dangerous as well, as it quite literally toys with its enemies. And although Kyoraku himself must take part in the games too, he does so with a sinister grin, as he knows them and their rules far better than his opponents ever could, leading to battles becoming a disorientating, frightening experience for those facing Katen Kyokotsu. Of all the Shikai on this list, Ichigo Kurasaki's Zangetsu is probably the hardest to place. Here we're looking at Ichigo's true Zangetsu, the dual blades forged by Oetsu in the fires of the royal palace. The dual blades taking the form of a longer blade that represents Ichigo's combined Shinigami and Hollow powers, and a smaller, stubbier blade that represents Ichigo's Quincy powers. This zanpakuto is about as weird as they come, but it's indeed powerful, with Getsuga Tensho and Getsuga Jujisho making quick work of a sternritter even in her holy form, and even helped Ichigo stand his ground against Yhwach himself, who at this point had absorbed the Soul King. It's so difficult to decide where this zanpakuto should sit, where this Shikai should sit, since we get to see so little of it actually in action, and to be quite honest, positions 4, 5, and 6 are pretty interchangeable in my eyes. But the raw power and reiatsu of Zangetsu, bearing the essence of 3 distinct races within the universe of Bleach, absolutely shouldn't be underestimated. After all, going back to Ichigo's battle against Candice Catnip, really the only time we get to see him properly use this Shikai outside of his confrontation with Yhwach at the end of the series, he really does deal with her almost effortlessly, using only 2 attacks to effectively win that fight. Now, as we enter the top 3, I think things become a little more predictable, and for good reason. In the 3rd place position, we have Sosuke Aizen's Kyoka Suigetsu, a Shikai so powerful that, as I demonstrated recently, it made it difficult to even think of a suitable Bankai for it. Aizen's Kyoka Suigetsu is nigh perfect, creating almost totally imperceptible illusions that completely envelop all 5 senses. As Aizen himself says, from the victim's perspective, a fly can become a dragon, or a swamp a flower garden. And the illusions are created with such flawless realism that it's almost totally impossible to tell the difference, to know when you're under Aizen's spell. Not only that, but the Shikai has virtually no weaknesses either. From the moment Aizen releases it, you're trapped in its spell forevermore. As far as your sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch go, nothing is guaranteed when Aizen is involved, which is a truly terrifying prospect. What weaknesses Kyoka Suigetsu does have feel contrived in comparison, as though Kubo felt he had to think of something. But in reality, Kyoka Suigetsu is truly terrifying for that very reason. What does reality even mean when confronted with this power? After all, Baragon's own reality collapsed right in front of him, while the Gotei 13 battled Aizen under his influence the entire time, leading to them fighting and nearly killing each other as a result. Aizen's trademark trait is his deception, his duplicitous nature, and that lingering sense of uncertainty is reflected perfectly here. But when it comes to pure destructive power, all tremble before the immense might of Yamamoto Genryusai's Ryujin Jaka, an ancient fire zanpakuto and one of the most powerful of all. Wielded with over a millennium of history behind it, Ryujin Jaka's release command is most appropriate: reduce all creation to ash. As far as Shikai go, this is on a totally different level. With a mere swing of his sword, Yamamoto can unleash a raging, tempestuous inferno capable of incinerating sternritter level enemies in a single effortless swipe. As the flames twist and lick at the air, Yamamoto scorches the very earth around him, creating sweeping arcs of flame that explode outwards with a relentless fury. But it's not just overwhelming strength that makes this Shikai so legendary. Ryujin Jaka is versatile too, capable of imprisoning enemies, elegantly slicing them, or decimating an entire battlefield with an attack that seemed to have burst forth from hell itself. When it seems like the release of a Shikai signals the very end of the world itself, from its release command to the pure power overflowing from it, there's very little that can be done to stand up against its rampage. Ryujin Jaka, as one of the oldest and strongest Shikai in the series, is absolutely deserving of its second place slot, and is one of the most powerful and well-rounded Shikai in Bleach. However, if you watched the first video in my new Bleach vs. Battle series, and a massive thank you by the way for the amazing reception to that video, you'll know that one Shikai stands tall even above Ryujin Jaka. Every Shikai on this list so far, no matter how different they all may seem, have one thing in common. Their power resides in their name. And one who has command over names has power over all other zanpakuto. Ichibei Hyosebe's Ichimonji is the most powerful Shikai in Bleach. This Shikai falls more on the simplistic side of abilities, revolving around one singular potent power that raises it above all else. When Ichibei releases his zanpakuto Shikai with the command Paint It Black, it transforms his calligraphy brush into a blade, and when it's swung it splashes black ink all over the place. Anything this ink touches loses its name and all of its power too. So this doesn't just go for zanpakuto, though it would most certainly work on those as well, instantly shutting down any zanpakuto on this list and all their powers and abilities that come with them. But it also works on body parts, limbs, and other accessories or items too. Anything that has been named can have its name stripped away in a flash. It's terrifying to think that even through the plethora of strange, weird, and wonderful abilities that we've seen on this list so far, Ichimonji's ink would stifle them all out of existence. Splash some ink onto Kyoka Suigetsu and presumably the illusions would instantly dissipate, leaving a useless sword in their wake. Coat Nozarashi in black ink and watch as its cutting power becomes worthless, turning the sword into a hefty dead weight in Zaraki's hand. Ichimonji is a terrifying, godlike power in the world of Bleach, and worthy of the title of the strongest Shikai of them all. Well, that's the list. I think it's a pretty extensive and pretty comprehensive one, but even so, honestly, there were so many Shikai that I felt deserved a spot on here. Whether that's Yumichika's Rurouni Kujaku, Ukitake's Sogyo no Kotowari, Gin's Shinso, there's an absolute well of zanpakuto to choose from, and so we really did have to narrow it down. But let me know in the comments below, do you agree with my list at all? I'd love to see your lists down below as well, so we can compare and see just how off base you thought I actually was, or maybe if you actually agreed with a number of my placements, or at least with the zanpakuto, the Shikai that made it on the list in the first place. I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. Guys, make sure to hit subscribe if you haven't done already, give the video a like, give it a thumbs up to help support the channel. I really would appreciate it. Check out Mr. Tomo Talks Games if you haven't done already. And until next time, I'll catch you later, and I'll see you then.